welcome to Different Frames Film Podcast. I'm Greg Joya, joined by Antonio, as always, and we are going to talk today about Oscar travesties, or at the very least, moments in Oscars history where we think something else should have happened. So we're jumping in our time machine today. We're traveling back to, I think, 10 different points in history each to right some wrongs. So it
So I
almost
guess
did.
maybe just to tell the viewers, like, what do you guys like? So we've compiled this list of films that we think, should have won any given year, like given an award to something that wasn't even recognized, maybe. I feel like every year there's a bunch of these sort of snubs, right? Like, and
Mhm.
people always have controversy. And then the years go by and by, and people just forget what was even nominated, what was even won. So I'm just curious what your guys' relationships with the Oscars are. Are you
It's
often
I
content with
don't
them
consider it
or
a
what?
particularly, particularly serious endeavor. I think it's kind of fun to speculate who's going to win, who's going to lose. But beyond that, it's like it's a pretty, it's a pretty simple, just like a fun little thing to root for or whatever. It's not a. I don't think it actually tells us what's the best movie.
Yeah, I think almost the exact same. I think maybe when I look at the ones from a long time ago, and I may be biased because maybe I only know those movies because they won Oscars, but it seems like as time has progressed, they've gotten a lot more meaningless to me. That
Hmm.
it seems like even the list of nominees often aren't film. There might be, three or four films that I thought would potentially be the best film that year. None of them even get nominated. I used to, a long time ago, kind of try to watch all the Oscar nominees, but at this point, I almost just tune it out. I couldn't even really tell you what was nominated this year. I know the nominations came out and I glanced at it, but I think I'd maybe seen one of them, so it was just like, it just seems almost irrelevant.
Hmm.
But I don't know. So yeah, that's the Oscars to me. It's the Academy doing their Academy thing, and more power to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's two sides of it. There is like this side of, these things are logged into history, and it's important for films to be recognized, and it's important for there to be fanfare around films. But at the same time, I think, what you guys were both saying, it's like, it's not necessarily like, okay, that was the best film. It just happens to have been voted by this group of people, and there's a lot of political stuff involved and a lot of
Absolutely.
campaigning that people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with with this list I made of alternate Oscars, if you will, I kind of was looking through, and I did look at what was nominated and stuff, but I was kind of going off of like my favorite films and what in those films stood out to me, seeing if those movies had won an Oscar, and if they hadn't, okay, well, I would want to give it this sort of this chance now, just to recognize these movies retroactively.
Yeah, I sort of approach it that way. My original start was I tried to think of, people who may have been deserving of an Oscar, at some point in their life. Like Alfred Hitchcock was the first one that jumped out.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself that, Alfred Hitchcock should have had a best director. He probably should have had many, but he definitely deserved a best picture, a best director Oscar. And so then I tried to kind of, superimpose his body of work over Oscars and try to find some point where he made an especially excellent film uh, that I think could have got him a best director, as opposed to maybe a year when the person who won or the best director that year was not as deserved. I don't even know. I think the one I picked might actually be really controversial, but it was
Okay.
kind of
Oh,
the
I'm
one I thought
excited.
maybe if there was a year that he could have had it, it might have been that year. Um, but that was kind of my starting point, and so I went through a few, like I think like notable omissions, like historically from the Oscars, and then I kind of filled it out by like trying to think of like what was a year where some lousy film won and some amazing film came out, and tried to kind of
Mhm.
right those wrongs too. So it was kind of like a double-edged sword, if that's probably not the right word, but it was a two-pronged attempt
Yeah.
to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I should
Cool.
say that there were a lot of years in which, like, the winners, I'm like, well, that's good. Like, that's fine that that won. So,
Sure.
but there are these kind of iconic years where you're like, what? Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like, How Green Was My Valley beating Citizen Kane. You're like, all right. Like, I'm not gonna say that's a bad movie, but what are we
exactly,
doing
right.
here?
It's funny. Maybe that should lead us right into the conversation, because that
Hmm.
was the first one that once I had kind of gone through a couple of like these guys deserved an Oscar. That was the very first thing that popped into my head. And
Mhm.
I was actually that was the one that I was going to kind of like mention, but not
Sure.
there were two actually. But so like with that one, I feel like it's such the obvious, like we all know at this point that Citizen Kane for decades was
Yeah.
considered the greatest film of all time. Um
Hmm.
but it was tough because honestly, I think John Ford is one of my favorite directors ever.
Sure.
And I think if I were to like just match John Ford and Orson Welles, I think John Ford is better. I think he deserved an Oscar, and How Green Was My, that's totally deserving in any other year. But yeah, I think pretty much maybe almost unanimously people would go back and Citizen Kane and Orson Welles would be best picture, best director. And so that wasn't even on my actual final list because it felt like just such a
Yeah, it's so
like a
obvious.
no-brainer. Yeah. Um but yeah, so that was the and the other thing I wanted I know I'm always bringing up Preston Sturges, kind of my all-time favorite director,
Mhm.
but I always felt bad for him because his in 1941 he made The Lady Eve and Sullivan's Travels, which are considered his two
Damn.
masterpieces and two of the best movies ever. They both came out that year, and yet like there's no way I can get him the Oscar for that because Citizen Kane, as great as those, I like those movies better to watch over and over,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was quite a year for movies when you've got there's a lot of 1941. That was a solid year, but
Yeah, my honorable mention was actually against a film that we talked about on our last
mhm,
podcast, against Wings, and I had seen that Metropolis, one of my favorite movies of all time, was not nominated for any Oscars. But
mhm.
the thing is that it would have been the first Oscars ever, so there weren't any categories for best foreign language film
Hmm.
or international film, so it wouldn't have gotten that nomination because it
Well,
didn't
it came out the
exist.
year. Didn't it come out the year before Wings? I
Um,
think Wings is
it came out in
28.
1927.
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought Wings was 28, and then Metropolis was 27.
That's that first Oscars is weird too.
Yeah, although yeah,
Where
they probably
like
didn't do it.
they like counted for multiple years and stuff because they just
Mm,
didn't know what they were doing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would
So it
certainly
was
get if
another thing where
Metropolis and Wings were head to head. I'd absolutely give it to Metropolis. I never realized. I always thought they
yeah.
were
they are both
two different years.
1927.
Wings is 27 too. Okay, maybe because it was the
Yeah.
28 Oscars.
Yeah,
So
that
yeah,
might be what's
I agree with
going.
you there. Metropolis. That would have
Yeah,
been a good
personally
kickoff too.
Metropolis, but
Yeah,
it makes sense why Wings won, I think. So
yeah,
Right.
that was my honorable mention there.
sure. Um,
Right. Well, let's get into the list. All right. So my first one is from the 23rd Academy Awards. These are films from 1950. Um, so my selection was for Best Picture, I believe Sunset Boulevard should have won. Um, it was the film that was nominated, but the actual winner was All About Eve,
hmm.
which I will say I haven't seen, but I just believe that like Sunset Boulevard has been like such an influential film,
Mhm.
and it's just iconic and it's just amazing. So yeah, that was my choice.
It's funny. I saw both of those movies last year. The Paramount Theater here in Austin does their Summer of Classics, and those were both. They showed both those this summer, so I
Hmm.
saw them in the theater a few weeks apart. And yeah, they're both excellent. But yeah, Sunset Boulevard, absolutely, I agree. That could have should have won. I think that was All About Eve is great, but I think Sunset Boulevard is even better.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably because it's more of a noir film and kind of like about characters that aren't necessarily likable, that maybe that's probably the reason it didn't win. Um,
Yeah.
just a hunch there.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's a little bit more difficult of a film. I think it's something that All About Eve. You watch it and it's just like this. It's all right there. Sunset Boulevard kind of sticks with you for a while, and I think it's one of those
Mhm.
movies that over time maybe gets reassessed. But but I am glad that you said that you were putting it over a movie you hadn't seen, because there's a couple places where I've done that too, or at least one place. And I was
Mhm.
like, gosh, am I gonna get in trouble for like this didn't deserve the Oscar? I never saw it,
Yeah.
of course.
And then you see
But
it,
good.
and
Like,
then you're like, "Oh shoot, I
I
was
don't feel as
wrong."
bad now. So um, yeah, but yeah, that's a good call. I'm not going to argue with that one.
Mhm.
Um, so my earliest, and 1941 again. So in addition to Hitchcock, there were two other names that instantly jumped out, and the first was Cary Grant.
Mhm.
And I realized Cary
Nice.
Grant, in some ways, I don't want to say he's a one note. He's mostly always playing Cary Grant. So it's
Mhm.
not like he's necessarily displaying massive range in the characters he plays, but I think more so than we give him credit for. Like, he's someone I'm really into him. I've seen a lot of his films, um, and I thought in 1941, if there was ever a film that he could have gotten the Oscar for, in fact, I think he was nominated. One of his few nominations was his performance in Penny Serenade, and the guy
Mm.
that won, another actor I like, is Gary Cooper for Sergeant York, which is also a good movie, and I can see where Cooper is doing a lot more acting to be Sergeant York, because he's kind of putting on a character. But that felt like if there was ever a moment in time that Cary Grant could have taken it home, it'll be that one.
Mhm.
And I don't feel that. I think Cary Grant's performance in Penny Serenade is also one of his less Cary Granty performances. So, so yeah, I took away Gary Cooper's Oscar, and I give it to Cary Grant in 1941. So Cary Grant, Best Actor, 1941.
Was Cary Grant
Nice.
ever nominated?
He was nominated for Penny Serenade. I don't know if
Oh,
he
I
was
see. Okay.
nominated. He may have had another nomination at some point. I think he had a second one. He never won,
Mhm.
but that was, like I said, it was a great year. I was like, Maltese Falcon came out there. There's Suspicion. There's a lot of great movies that came out in 41, and so it's tough to kind of redo that year. But I think that yeah, I'm going to give it to him. I'm looking at the nominees. It was Gary Cooper, Cary Grant, Walter
Huh.
Houston, Robert Montgomery, and then Orson Welles for Citizen Kane. Those were the best actor. That would have been kind of a crazy thing too if uh, Wells had won Best Director and Best Actor. Like, that can't have happened before, right? Has anyone ever? Did Mel
No,
Gibson
that
maybe?
I was gonna
I'm trying to
say,
think of that would have been, and to get your Best Picture, that would have been a crazy sweep. But
Wow.
he got shut out. He got nothing. So yeah,
Yeah, I've always liked Cary Grant. But I know what you're saying. This sort of, he has this persona that you kind of look to, and he touches upon on all of his films, like a certain archetype, or
Mhm.
why you would cast someone like him.
Yeah. He's
But then
just this.
occasionally he has
Yeah.
these other characters where you're like, oh, you're seeing kind of a different side, and I think that is, because of Hitchcock, and kind of Hitchcock saw something
Yeah,
with him.
that often it was his Hitchcock roles. Penny Serenade is not a Hitchcock movie, but often when he paired with Hitchcock,
Mhm.
Hitchcock got more out of him than, not always, because like
mhm.
North by Northwest, he's just quintessential Cary Grant, but
Yeah,
he's just impossibly suave and urbane, and just he's never flustered. Well, even when he's flustered, he's good at it. But he did screwball comedy, Bringing Up Baby
yeah,
and
like
His Girl
Arsenic and
Friday,
Old Lace.
Arsenic and Old Lace. Yeah, like he could be funny. He was better than people give him credit for. But even he
Mhm.
once said, somebody said, like, I wish I could be Cary Grant. He said, I wish I could too, because it was just, that was something. He was Archibald Leach was his real name, and it was
Right.
Cary Grant was just this persona he created. But
Mhm.
but yeah.
Nice.
So what do you got? What's next?
Moving along, another film from 1950. Um, this one was also nominated in the category for Best Director. I believe it should have gone to Carol Reed for The Third Man.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
the
Who
actual
what
winner
got it
was
that year?
Joseph L. Mankiewicz for All About Eve again. So, or
I
as I
think so
guess maybe
too. I
you can
think, yeah.
tell, but uh, and I should see All About Eve before I talk too much more smack. But
Okay.
yeah, I just feel like for me, like The Third Man is such a like it was such like a lightning bolt in my like film watching. Like I just was on TCM one time and I was just blown away about like the tone and the shots and how the story was
Mhm.
unfolding. Seeing something like so different and like tonally all over the place and in that setting of Vienna and like
Mhm.
the zither music and the shots and everything. I just thought it was so well made, and I think it shot Carol Reed up into like one of my like all-time favorite directors. Um, yeah, I just think it's great, and then just to have like somebody like Orson Welles come into the movie like later on
Mhm.
and just become another iconic character. And
Mhm.
I just think of like how masterfully done like those chase sequences are, and what sticks in my mind especially is the final shot. I don't know if you guys remember it. The spoilers, but the girl, his romantic interest throughout the film, she's kind of like walking towards him in this like long shot of like the street and the trees, and he's
Mhm.
waiting here towards the front of the frame. Thinks she's gonna walk and stop by him, but she just keeps walking, and it's just like a perfect. I don't know. It's just a perfect ending.
Mm.
So that's my choice there.
Yeah, no,
Nice.
I like that movie a lot, and I agree with you. I think that I've seen All About Eve, and it's great, but it's an entertaining great movie. It's a
Mhm.
lot of funny scenes and interesting scenes and some clever twists. But as a directed movie, I think The Third Man is just there's so much more going on with camera work, and even when we first see Orson Welles, like the shadow and the light comes
Yeah.
on, and it's just
Mhm.
this and those catacombs. That's another one the Paramount showed, I think not last year, but the year before. So I got a chance. I'd never seen it on a big screen,
Mhm.
and it's
Wow.
very effective. It's very gripping in a way that All About Eve isn't as visually or I don't know. I don't want to like I'm sure that
Right.
the director of All About Eve was also doing interesting things with the camera. He wasn't just point and shoot, but yeah, I think the Third Man. I could see All About Eve getting a better picture, but the Third Man
Mhm.
getting a better director. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could totally buy into that. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I agree. I think that was another good choice. Um, let's see. So I guess I'm up now.
Mhm.
So I'm moving up 1 year from 1941 to 1942, and this another so again Preston Sturges, he did get an Oscar for I think the very first ever screenplay Oscar in
Oh, nice.
1940. He was the first director to write and direct. Like before then, they had writers and directors, and he was the guy that said, "Every time I write a script, you guys butcher it. I'll direct it for free. Just let me direct one." And they, well, we got to give you $10. So they gave him $10. And then after that, everybody was like, well, hey, if he can do it, and that's how that whole trend started. But
Mhm.
he never got a best director. And I guess the year he could, like I said, 41, he wasn't going to beat Citizen Kane. But I'm going to give 1942, The Palm Beach Story, over Mrs. Miniver. And this is the one I've never seen Mrs. Miniver. So maybe it's this awesome work of
Yeah.
cinema. But I'm giving, The Palm Beach Story Best Picture. I'm giving Sturges Best Director over William Wyler, who's the director I like. William Wyler's made a lot of great movies, but I can't imagine that Mrs. Miniver. Again, I may watch it and be proved wrong, but I'm
Mhm.
going with uh, 1942. And Palm Beach Story it's great. It's Joel McCrea and Claudette Colbert. It's got one of Sturges' funniest ever sequences with this long train ride where there's like a fox hunting club that's on this train getting drunker and drunker, and eventually they're like shooting off their guns, and it's got all his great character actors, and it's Rudy Valley shows up as kind of uh the guy that's challenging Joel McCrea for Claudette Colbert. It's got Mary
Mhm.
Astor in a hilarious role as Valley's sister. It's got a totally bonkers. So the film starts with this completely indecipherable scene of this wedding where everything's going wrong and people are. Seems like there's like two brides at one point and you don't know what's going on. And then the very final scene kind of goes back to that, and that's how they solve all the drama. Like, how are they going to get out of this pit? Oh well, because if you remember in the very pre-credits opening scene, you saw this, and and it's just this.
Yeah,
It's a really. If you've never, have either of you seen the Palm Beach Story?
No. Mm-mm.
I have
It's a
not seen the
great.
Palm Beach Story.
It's a great screwball comedy, romantic comedy, and it just won the Oscar in 1942 for Best Picture, and Preston Sturges just got his coveted Best Director Oscar. So there we go, 1942. That wrong has been righted.
Would you say you feel that Sturgis is like more of a journeyman director, or would you say he falls a little bit under
Ooh.
auteur?
Well, he's a very unusual director. He is so he had a really brief career. Like he directed his first film in 1940. In fact, I should get out his list so I get this exact right. But like, I think he directed something like 9 movies between 1940 and 1946.
Wow.
Every single one except one is just a masterpiece, just like pitch perfect screwball comedy. The outlier is this movie called The Great Moment, where he was trying to do kind of like a dramatic comedy about the guy that discovered how to anesthetize like a dentist, where you wouldn't have to just strap the guy down and do surgery.
Oh my
But the
God.
studio didn't really like what he did, so they completely butchered it and recut it and changed it, and they kind of, it wasn't really his finished product. So I kind of cut him slack on that. But he just kind of was constantly in these disputes, and he kind of got blackballed. And he made like a couple more great pictures that he made. Unfaithfully Yours, which I think was remade more recently, and Mad Wednesday. And then he just was completely blacklisted. I think he went to France and did a couple of films. Like his career, his entire directorial career is like 1940 to 49 or 50. Like, so he just had this brief. And I think that's why he's not well known, because he didn't get to keep going. Like I think he probably could have kept going into the 50s, but so I don't know. It's hard to say what he was, because again, he was also the first guy that would write and direct. Like he would just take total control, and he did things in a way that, like, now it's like the Coen brothers, Wes Anderson, they do this, but he was the only guy back then. Every single Preston Sturges movie had the same 15 actors and actresses in it, and then he'd bring in 2 leads. So he would always have William Demarest, Franklin Pangborn, Jimmy Conlon, all these you'd recognize them if you saw them, but they're all these character actors. And then he would get Henry Fonda and Barbara Stanwyck, Joel McCrea and Veronica Lake, Brian Dunleavy. He'd get like one star, and he just had this kind of repertory style, like these actors that just were like his group, and they'd do other movies too. But he's an anomaly more than anything else. I think he's his own creature, and whatever it was, just these disputes with the studios that kind of got him blacklisted, kind of ended that. But there's this guy John H. Collins, who directed films in the silent era, that died in the 1918 influenza outbreak. But those are the 2 guys in my mind, like these 2 guys that could have been as huge as any directors had their careers been allowed to proceed, for obviously different reasons. But I think Collins and Sturges both should be as well known as a lot of other directors, but they just didn't have that chance for whatever reason. So
well, now he has a Greg Joya Oscar.
He got the
official
Oscar.
The better ones.
Yeah. This is the coveted one. Somewhere he's smiling down. I knew
a different frames Oscar.
Yes.
All right. Well,
all right. Go ahead.
Well, I'll move along to mine. My next one comes from the 24th Academy Awards. So moving again one more year, 1951 films.
Okay.
For this one, I chose. Okay, so this one I have a little bit. I don't know exactly which category, so I chose Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress. Jan Sterling from Ace in the Hole. She was nominated for Supporting Actress, but didn't win. Vivian Leigh from A Streetcar Named Desire won, I suppose, for Best Actress. And the reason I kind of struggle on where to place this is, so she is nominated for Best Supporting Actress, but kind of in my view of the film, she's almost the co-lead. I mean, that she's a very important part of that film.
Yeah.
And obviously Kirk Douglas is the main actor. But I just feel like she's almost she's close to being an equal in that, and I don't
Mhm.
know, it's just a weird sort of category, I guess. But I think it's incredibly underrated performance. You know, I think a lot of the time for these kind of best uh best actress, they'll give or best actor, they'll kind of give a little bit more of like a showy performance, especially like traditionally. And they'll usually give it to
Mhm.
like, like a younger, beautiful actress. And I just feel like in Ace in the Hole, Jan Sterling is like bringing a character who is very mysterious and kind of seems like she's just popping in and going to be inconsequential when
Mhm.
she arrives in the movie, and she just kind of, but then the importance of her character grows, and the more you learn about the character, you're like, oh, this is a complex person with like a history that is kind of strange. Like she's dyed her hair for some reason. She doesn't love her husband that is trapped in, um, these ruins, and she loves money, and she starts to grow attracted to Kirk Douglas's character. And then, of course, at the end, spoiler, she's the one who stabs Kirk Douglas in the gut, and it's like, I mean, that just had to happen. Um,
Mhm.
but I just think her performance is so it changes and it's subtle and it's really great. So that's why I would give it to her.
Yeah. I see
Nice.
that a lot when I was looking back at the old Oscars. You'd get the kind of Hollywood feel good, audience pleasing performance, and a lot of these more darker kind of like nuanced roles got overlooked. And I think now you look back, those are the more interesting films. Those are the more
Yeah.
interesting performances.
Mhm.
But it wasn't really on people's radar back then to like try to get somebody who, was doing something darker like that. Not always, but you know, often, because I think I'm coming up pretty soon with another Billy Wilder.
Yeah.
I think he also got robbed another time. So, you know,
Yeah.
Nice.
yeah. In fact, I think
All
that
right.
leads perfectly into because my next one is
Yeah.
so 1944 is my next year where I put Double Indemnity as the best picture over Going My Way.
Nice.
Another film
Mhm.
I've never seen, Going My Way, but and I did, and I guess I'm kind of like in this case I'm going to do two as one because I might as well cover it now. I'm going to give Billy Wilder Best Director too, which I did with Sturgis before,
Mm.
but somehow I listed these as two different picks, so we're getting my 3 and 4. Um,
Cool.
but yeah, Double Indemnity I think is just fabulous, stone cold classic that it'd be hard for anyone. Again, it's like Mrs. Miniver. Is Going My Way. Is it Citizen Kane? And I don't know it. I don't know, but I'm giving Double Indemnity, and I'm giving Billy Wilder the best. He's one of my favorite directors of all time too,
Yeah, me
Mhm.
too.
and he won some Oscars. It's not like he never got recognized, but he was definitely overlooked for that one. So so yeah, I'm not sure what else you guys. I'm sure you guys have both seen Double Indemnity.
Yeah, I
Totally.
Seen
love
that
it.
many times, but it's just great. It's gripping. I think I love how it kind of you start out with, it's already happened and you're getting that retelling, which is like kind of Sunset Boulevard. He does that again, but
Yeah.
um, the way he does it, and then it kind of catches up with it, as opposed to like, and that's how the story happened. Like this is more like you kind of catch up to him that opening scene,
Mhm.
and then Edward G. Robinson. That's one of his best performances. Like another actor I
Yeah.
just love, and I've seen so many things with him in it that I love, but like that whole speech he gives about the little man and I this and this this many deaths by this and 25% there and suicide, and he
Mhm.
just how he memorized that, let alone delivered. It's just one of the greatest speeches in cinematic history for me. um and their relationship, and just like the disappointment when he comes in and realizes that it was his friend all along. It's a brilliant film. Like I just I can't imagine, even at the again it's about infidelity and murder, and like
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't the happy movie that. In fact, I don't even. I should Google right now what is Going My Way. Is that have either you guys seen
I've
Going My
never,
Way?
I
I
have
don't know what
not
that
seen
is.
Going My Way.
Um, it's a Bing Crosby movie. It's a musical
Okay.
comedy. Leo McCarey. Um, who Leo McCarey is one of these guys. He did some Marx Brothers stuff. He's kind of what I think of as like the journeyman type of guy.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
he's Father Fitzgibbon, dealing with some. It's one of those kind of the preacher goes back to his rough neighborhood roots.
Okay.
Probably not a bad movie. I don't know. I like
Yeah,
Bill
I'm sure
Cosby.
it's pleasant, but
Yeah, but give me Double Indemnity and give me Billy
Right.
Wilder any day
Well,
over.
Billy Wilder is just so great at thinking of these stories and presenting these stories of, obviously a very bleak version of American ideals or culture or
Yeah.
nature, but
Mhm.
like it feels just like every movie you're like, wow, this guy like predicted the future in a way, or like he
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
he is capturing something. You can tell it's all informed by his experiences too. Like
Mhm.
he just has a way of doing it. And it's funny, so with the Ace in the Hole, it seemed like he had to have the success of Sunset Boulevard in order to,
Mhm.
and through that success he was able to make Ace in the Hole. Otherwise I don't think that movie would have ever been made, because
Yeah.
it's just so bleak of a subject matter.
We're going next.
My next one, kind of a famous snub, or it's kind of shocking in a way.
Uh-huh.
So this comes from the 35th Academy Awards, films from 1962. So my award
Oh,
goes to Peter O'Toole for Lawrence of Arabia for Best
okay. Well,
Actor.
that's on my list too. So I'm gonna have to.
Okay,
Okay,
nice.
yes.
Yeah.
So the actual winner was Gregory Peck for To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yep.
Um,
Good performance.
fine, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
monologues and whatever, but just Peter O'Toole in Lawrence of Arabia, it is, I don't know, it just blows me away. It's such a complex performance, and he's able to sustain audiences like attention through 4 hours, and you kind of just you come to understand this character, but he's always also like an enigma. Um and just something about those eyes, his blue eyes, and how he goes
Mhm.
from being so happy and just full of energy and sort of optimism into like this just, I mean, evil, like sort of person, just this complete like just wants
I know
control and
exactly
he
what you're
wants
saying.
power, and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's able to switch from being like a loving kind, but when he wants something, he can become ruthless.
Mhm,
Mhm.
I love that movie. I love his performance. That's why it was on my list too.
mhm.
I've been lucky enough twice. I've seen it in a 70 millimeter. One time at one of those domed,
Oh
curved,
wow.
like it's.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah.
anytime that's playing, I will drop what I'm doing and go see it because
Yeah.
yeah, that is just pure cinema for me. That is what a movie is supposed to be.
Mhm. I mean, every time I will only see it pretty much when it comes on the big screen, uh,
Mhm.
because that's
I've
the way
never
to
not
see
seen. I've
it.
only seen it twice, and both times, yeah,
Yeah.
big screen.
Mhm. And then as
Be
soon as
hard
the
to watch
movie's
that on
over,
TV.
I'm like, I would watch that again right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, so far that's the first overlap on our list. I wonder if there's gonna be
Mhm.
anything else. But I think I've got my replacement already because there was another one that was kind of hovering that
Mhm.
now gets to come back on there, so we don't have
Okay.
a repeat. Um, well, I'm going to keep going chronologically. So my next one was 1953, and I'm going to take away From Here to Eternity's Oscar for Best Picture, and I'm going to give it to Shane. I think
Okay.
Shane is. I think it's. I know it's kind of like a straightforward kind of westerny type of thing in a way,
Mhm.
but it's just an excellent movie, and it's cinematic, and it's just better than From Here to Eternity. So Shane now gets my best Oscar. Have you guys seen either or both of those films?
I saw Shane a long time ago, but I have not seen the other one.
Okay.
I've yet
Um,
to see Shane. I'd like to though.
it's good. It's kind of it's a western, but it's different. It's not really kind of like the typical, gunslinger comes into town just to kill. It's more like there's like a romantic story, but there's also this bond between this child and Shane, and it's got kind of this heartbreaking ending. I don't want to spoil anything at all, but just I want this. If you haven't seen it, I won't say anything else. But I think it's
Yeah.
a. I wouldn't say underrated exactly because it's a very famous movie and it's a very beloved movie, but I
Right.
think it's underrated as being a great movie. I think a lot of
Mhm.
people think of it as, um, like what's another example? Just something like Nothing's coming to mind right now, but people think of it just as like another entertaining movie. But I think there's way more depth to it. And maybe if you do
Mm.
watch it, if you ever do watch it, let's talk about it. And
Yeah,
I'd be
I'm
curious
down.
if you agree.
Kind of what
But yeah,
I've
Short
heard
and Sweet, 1953,
from
Shane.
kind of what I've heard from osmosis of people who kind of more analyze Shane critically.
Hmm.
A little bit I've heard is that it did fall under kind of this period of westerns where there was that sort of standard western, and it wasn't necessarily a revisionist western, but it was
Hmm.
leaning more towards um, that kind of uh, turn in looking at those archetypes of the West, and that.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So I'm
Yeah.
just curious of your thoughts from seeing it.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's 1953, which is really just that heart of the kind of post collapse of the studio, just sort of Hollywood getting its footing.
Mhm.
But there are elements of Shane that you don't see again until kind of that new Hollywood, the spaghetti westerns, and it's not Peckinpah by any stretch, but you can kind of
Sure.
see if you've
Yeah.
got Stagecoach here, and Peckinpah's like The Wild Bunch or something here. Shane is kind of this bridge movie where you're starting to get just a little bit of that bubble. They couldn't do a lot of things that maybe you could do later because you still couldn't do those
Sure.
things in the 50s.
Yeah.
But more than any other Western I can think of in the 50s, although another Western is going to show up in a minute on my list, but for a different reason, um, you're starting to see some of that slight, kind of the way Westerns did it. They weren't just simple, here's the good guy, here's the bad guy, up the shootout, up the
Right.
bad guy shot, good guy
Mhm.
shot faster. Like, yeah, it's more to it, and I think it's because of when it came out, they had to keep it more veiled. So, but if you kind of
Sure.
dig for it, you sort of see under the, kind of under the radar what they were doing. That it's easy just to watch it and be like, oh, it's a cool story. There's the little kid, there's the cowboy, there's the pretty lady, and oh, there's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's enough that I think I'm not I don't feel like I'm bestowing an undeserved Oscar on it by
Mhm.
ripping the Oscar out of the hands of From Here to Eternity and handing it over to Shane.
Nice.
So
All right.
1953.
Okay, so for my next one, jumping kind of far, this one is
Mhm.
from 1981 films, so the 54th Academy Awards.
Okay.
Here, I would give the Best Actress to Isabelle Adjani for Possession.
Okay.
Have you guys
Mm.
seen this movie?
No.
I always hear people talking about it. There's a podcaster I like. It's his favorite movie. It's always like I got to see that, but I kind of want to see it in the theater. I'm waiting for some like Alamo or somebody
Yeah.
to show it. But I've heard it's like some people think it's the best movie ever made. So it's
Yeah.
got it up.
I mean,
But
I also it was kind of hard to come by, and then there was a 4K remaster a number of years ago, like more than 3 years ago. But and then I went to the theater and I saw it, and there was maybe four people in the theater, including myself, and
oh
I was
wow,
just
I would think that'd sell
I
out.
didn't know what to expect. In the movie, just every scene, something different and crazy happening, and uh, there's like a very famous scene of her having this sort of freak out in the subway, um,
Hmm.
where it's a one take shot, I guess, and they filmed it in one take. I think the actual edit is split up a bit, but so it's about this couple. It's set in Berlin in the 80s, so the Berlin is separated east and west,
Hmm.
and they're going through a divorce here. Um, Sam Neill is the other counterpart, who's also great, uh, but they're having this turmoil, and there's some sort of supernatural creature element going on that's kind of teased throughout, and it becomes a bigger thing. Um, but there's this one shot where she's like walking home from the subway with like groceries, and she just begins like freaking out and my jaw was on the floor, and I was like, I cannot believe like this performance. Like, it's disturbing to watch, but it is incredible. Like, this woman just gave it her all, and maybe this is a little bit of a spoiler, but she actually plays like two roles in the movie. Um,
Okay.
she's the wife, but then there's also the school teacher of their children, their children's teacher, and she is playing that role as well, but she just has different eye contacts and um, different hair. And it's kind of alluded like, is this a doppelganger? Is this a
Mhm.
clone? You don't know. So yeah, I think maybe this movie is just too. It's way too out there. It's way too much of a cult movie that I don't think she would have ever been recognized, and she was not
She wasn't
nominated.
even
But
I'm looking it up. Katharine
no,
Hepburn got it
no.
that year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Katharine
I
Hepburn,
mean, this
Diane
is
Keaton.
just not. Maybe nowadays they would maybe give her a nomination, but it is such a crazy movie and crazy performance. But I definitely recommend everyone check it out if you're
Yeah,
interested in
no, it's
like
on my
foreign
list of
cult
like
films.
absolute must watches. I've been holding out for a theater, but
Yeah,
especially if there's
I
a
think
Yeah.
good
it's worth it.
4K. Yeah. And you said that's because I would think if that showed, you'd get a packed house, but nobody. Where was that? Where did you see it?
Well, it was just here at the Lamely at a Lamely. It was in the middle of the day, so I'm not. Maybe a
Okay.
Yeah.
different showing had a big house. I'm sure if you had a New
Oh, so they gave it
Beverly,
multiple showings.
yeah, because it
It's
was
probably
throughout
for
like
the
a
new
week,
restoration. Yeah.
Oh,
right?
okay. You're lucky. I don't. If that came to Austin, I didn't know about it. So, but yeah, that's a good choice. That's exactly the kind of thing I was hoping we'd do when we did this because,
Mhm.
in fact, I kind of now that I'm looking at mine, maybe I should have gone more. I tried to go with like things that most people would know that could have won. But yeah, there's probably a lot of those sort of deeper cut cult films or performances like that. And I've always heard about that. I've heard that she's amazing in it and that film is amazing. So I'm gonna agree with it sight unseen.
Mhm.
Um, so where am I? Okay, so now here, 1954. This is the one that kind of sparked the whole thing. Um, I'm going to give Rear Window the best
Oh
picture
yeah.
over On the Waterfront,
Yeah.
and I'm going to give Hitchcock
Ooh.
the Oscar over Elia, however he says it, Elia Kazan.
Huh.
And I know like On the Waterfront is a big movie, and Kazan is a
Hmm.
big director, but part of this, like I said, it was just I really wanted to give Alfred Hitchcock a Best Director Oscar, and I felt like of all, I listed like the 4 or 5 films I thought were the best of Hitchcock's, and then I kind of looked at what won those years, and I thought, this would be the one where if he could do it, this would be the one.
Yeah.
So, it's not taking it anyway. I like On the Waterfront. I
Mhm.
think I don't know. Again, it's a very Hollywood like. It feels like the kind of movie where everyone making is like, I'm going to do this to get an Oscar. I'm going to overact. Not over. I'm going to like act like really go over and above to like. I don't know. Like there's something about
Yeah.
it that when I watch it, everybody is just kind of like given it that extra little something, but it's almost too much somehow.
Sure.
Yeah, I know what you're
If that
saying.
makes
It's
sense.
almost like an actor's movie more than it is a sort of full on. It's not. Rear Window is kind of a culmination of different aspects of filmmaking. I can see,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah, like,
understand your point. I think they're both great movies for sure.
but but yeah, like it just seemed like if that was the one, like if there was a year that Hitchcock could have taken it home, I think he deserved it anyway that year. But I was trying to look at other, like I was looking at Vertigo and I was looking at Psycho, and both of those seem like such out like even though they're famous,
Yeah,
they're not typical. Like if you look at Hitchcock's work, those are the two outliers. They're
right.
excellent, but they're not. And then I was looking at older stuff, and it just seemed like if there was going to be one moment where Hitchcock could do it, it was that. And I think he totally deserves it. I like as much as I think, like I said, On the Waterfront, enjoyable movie. Rear Window is just
Rear Window's amazing.
like doing all of that, just shooting it through a rear window. That the set, and then
Hmm.
it's just great, and it's so he gets and I guess I'm lumping him together as one again, but I'm giving him it's Best Picture and Best Director. He's getting them both. So Alfred Hitchcock finally gets the Oscars he deserved for so long. And it's weird to think that Alfred Hitchcock never got one. Like if anything invalidates the entire history of the
Yeah,
Academy.
Project. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would have loved to hear what like a speech of his would have been like. You just know it would have been like so funny, like
yeah,
his
that
sense of
alone would
humor.
be worth hearing exactly. So Yeah, I'd love to see him get up there and be like, who knows what he would have said.
Yeah,
But
who
yeah,
knows?
that would be, yeah. And so,
Oh,
and then I did consider Vertigo 2,
Mhm.
but I had already, I already had one for Vertigo. So, like for that year, and that was another one where I was like,
Uh-huh.
so we'll get to that next. I think it's the next
Okay,
one
okay.
coming up.
I'm
So,
excited because I love Vertigo too. I would say
yeah,
that's my favorite Hitchcock. But it kind of grew into that position, and
Mhm.
I agree. Rear Window is just a quintessential Hitchcock
yeah.
in a
Vertigo's
sense.
the most interesting Hitchcock film. I think it's the
Mhm.
most
Definitely.
clever, deep Hitchcock film. But there's other ones I like. I enjoy watching Rear Window more. I enjoy watching North
Yeah.
by Northwest more. Um, but yeah, Vertigo seemed like he was just hitting on all cylinders and doing these things he hadn't done before.
Mm.
So it makes sense why, like, that's kind of maybe it's his best movie, but not his best movie, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
going next. So you're in the '80s
Uh,
already. So you're well
yes,
beyond.
yeah. So now we have from the 58th Academy Awards, films from 1985. My selection is for Best Foreign Language Film, the movie Come and See.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, so have you guys seen this movie?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
Googling.
a challenging watch.
Yeah, yeah.
I
This
I don't think I have seen this.
it's
So
a
I'm
Belarusian
Googling it now, and
movie.
I don't know. Okay.
It's a World War II anti-war film about a child soldier, and it is probably maybe the most horrifying movie I've ever seen in my life. And
Mhm.
I think it's a movie that probably everybody should see, even though it is. I mean, it's traumatic. It's
Yeah.
hard to watch, but I think it wasn't even nominated, and I think I don't know. I just think this movie should be talked about more. I think it should be recognized more. Um, Kind of undeniable when you see it, like the filmmaking that's going on and the sort of
Mhm.
performances and just, I mean, the kid that's the star um, went through so much, like through the performance that his hair turned gray at like 12 or 13. And you just see on his
Really?
face from the beginning of the movie, he's like an actual kid, and then towards the end, it's just his face is just traumatic. Like he has shell shock, like, and
Mhm.
yeah, I just think, I mean, I don't know what one, the official story from Argentina. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm
Yeah.
just maybe maybe they just didn't have the sort of campaigning or whatever funds to put the movie in as in the spotlight for Academy members, but I think it should have been recognized.
Mhm.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's a movie I when I Googled it, I think I don't know if maybe you'd mentioned it, but I've heard of it somewhere, but
Mhm.
I've never seen it. So I'm gonna trust your judgment that it deserves the Oscar.
It's kind of hard to explain the movie without like getting into it.
Yeah.
I think it
Yeah.
does a very unique thing as far as the filmmaking technique goes of kind of this sort of showing the character's face and then showing what they're reacting to,
Mhm.
and it just immediately it's probably like the most immersive movie I've ever seen in that sense because it really puts you in that space. And um I like to think of like Stanley Kubrick as a very immersive director, but then you watch a movie like this and you're like it feels like you were there, which is that's why it's kind of traumatic of a movie and a horrifying movie because you're
Yeah.
seeing these war atrocities. But it kind of makes every other like war movie look like I don't know, a movie,
Yeah.
and
Right.
and this one just feels like real. So
I get it. Yeah.
Nice.
Um well, okay, so from there, I'm now I've gone two years more forward. This was one that I wanted to include, but it was one of my last omitted. That since we've given Peter O'Toole, since we agreed on that one, I get to sneak this one in. So in 1956, the winner was Around the World in 80 Days, Best Picture. It's a fun movie. It's what do we call it? It's like enormous, right? Like huge cast,
Yeah.
huge production. But I'm gonna give The Searchers the best picture. I feel like The
Mm.
Searchers. I finally again they had they showed a 70 millimeter print as part of one of their summer this year or last year, so I got to see it like I've only seen Around the World in 80 Days on TV. I know that was also like I think a 70 millimeter Technicolor panorama. Like it was a huge movie too. So maybe it's a little unfair to like this movie I've only seen on TV versus one. But The Searchers,
Mhm.
Mm.
it's beautiful. It's epic. It tells this long story. Um, I like John Wayne a lot. It's John Wayne, one of his better roles. He's not as one note, like there's more nuance. Like
Mhm.
at the end he kind of makes a little concession that you might not expect John Wayne to make. And just it's just a fabulous movie. It's to me The Searcher is just like a best picture. Around the World in
Mhm.
80 Days is like a Hollywood spectacle or something. It's like it's a mad world. It's like it's great, but it's not cinema at its finest the way I think The Searchers is. I guess you guys have both seen it, but what do you think?
Oh, yeah.
What are your
Yeah, I mean, you saying that it's just kind of surprising. Like, The Searchers has sustained, and it's often referenced. Your favorite director's favorite movie. So
yeah
it's
Mhm.
kind of shocking.
yeah absolutely it I don't know it's a great movie. It finally got the Oscar.
Finally.
So yeah, there we go. 1956. The Searchers is in. Around the World with 80 Days, sadly, is out.
Out.
Nice.
Okay, moving along. Mine is now from 1991, or the 1992 Academy Awards for 1991 films. The 64th Academy Awards. I believe they should have given Mr. James Cameron Best Director for Terminator 2 Judgment Day, who was not
Mm,
Oh,
even
yeah.
nominated for that
uh-oh.
movie.
We're about to have our first disagreement here, but go ahead, keep going.
All right.
The winner was Jonathan Demme for The Silence of the Lambs, which I do
Hey,
love
fair
that
enough.
movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that movie is great. So this one's hard, but I was just kind of like, when I was making this list, I was like, I love Terminator 2, and that movie's just crazy. Like when you start like thinking about what went into that movie, and I don't think James Cameron has ever won Best Director.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Maybe
I'll check that
Titanic, I'm
while
not
you're.
sure, but
Oh,
um,
probably Titanic.
it could be. Um,
No, I didn't Titanic win everything. I thought Titanic like just swept on that year, but yeah.
yeah, and I love Titanic too. I just feel
Yeah.
like Terminator 2, I just it's just a great movie. Watch it all the time, and I first watched it when I was like 8 years old, so that kind of really
Yeah.
informed like
He did win for
me.
Titanic.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I feel like I don't know, not even getting nominated this year is kind of like shocking.
Yeah.
He
I
has like
think
other
partly
good
that was an era
competition.
when action movies
Mhm.
didn't get nominations the way they do now. I think like The Dark
Yeah, I
Yeah.
Knight
mean,
didn't kind of.
well, so Ridley Scott was nominated for Thelma and Louise, uh,
Mhm.
kind of an action-ish film. Um,
Yeah, but
It,
that's I think
an
there's more of
action
a
director
human
playing with
element.
his type.
yeah. I think maybe because Terminator 2 is a sequel and it's science fiction,
Mhm.
um, Schwarzenegger, I feel like maybe that's why. But I just kind of like looking back at just everything that was like innovated, from special effects to like all the elements of the story. Um, the fact that he like wrote and directed and is kind of taking the setup from the first film and flipping it completely, where
Mhm.
he's now the good guy. And I don't know. There's a lot for me to say, but that's my choice, and I'm curious now, what you think.
Well, I don't so I know this is not a popular opinion,
Mhm.
but like for me, like so I really like the first Terminator movie.
Hmm.
And I think like the initial like Terminator is just a very effective science fiction, almost a horror film.
Mhm.
It really works for me. And like I remember when Terminator 2 came out, it felt like this it's just like this spectacle. It's like this it's all about the special effects.
Hmm.
Uh like it's just kind of a grind. It's like this monotonous sort of like this explodes and that explodes and this, and it's just this never ending. It just grinds its way to the finish. Like I don't know. Like I just did. Like I appreciate it for the technical. Like if there was an Oscar for like special, I'm sure they like give it the
Well, there
special
is.
effects Oscar. But just as a movie, it just felt like they took this really great kind of simple story with like. I just I don't know. I just felt like. Oh, sorry, my alarm is going off here. I felt like it just wasn't it. Like it doesn't really hold up. Like the plot is kind of nonsense in some ways, and it's just I don't know. Like I just didn't like. I don't hate the movie, but it just felt to me like an over the top special effects extravaganza version of this really great kind of small movie. So
Mm-hmm.
and again, I get it. Like it was people love it. It's hugely popular. In fact, let me see what actually I want to look at what sorry, I want
Yeah,
to
I
see
mean,
what
I think I mean, yeah, that's not a very popular opinion. I see what you're
oh yeah, I
saying.
know
Like
that.
if you're someone who leans more towards like the flavor of the Terminator and kind of sort of jolt that does for the science fiction B movie
Mhm.
subgenre,
Mm-hmm.
and it still has all these like kind of low budget elements, but does a lot with a little. Uh, I can see what you're saying as far as like, okay, now he's got the budget, and now he's got taking it to the another level. I can see you kind of saying like, okay, well, this is way different than that first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, in pretty much all elements, like he's pretty much subverting every single thing that he sets up in the Terminator.
Yeah, like it just
And
I don't know. And again, I've only watched it probably opening weekend in the theater. Like that was the time I
Uh,
saw it, so it's been a long time.
mm-hmm.
Maybe I just got bad popcorn that day. When I'm looking at like Cape Fear, was that year too?
Uh,
Yeah, I would
that
if I
sounds
was
right.
gonna if I had to take Silence of the Lambs Oscar away, I'd give it to Cape Fear. But I can't fault it. I
Scorsese.
get it. People love Terminator 2. Whenever I tell people like, yeah, I'm not that into it, they think I'm a lunatic or something. So
But yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
I love Jonathan Demme too, and The Silence of the Lambs is great.
But yeah, I'll allow it though. We can give it the Oscar. Let's. I'm not going to veto that.
Sometimes they're just
I'm going to watch
unpopular
it
pick.
again. If I watch it, maybe I'll watch it again and be like, hey, it's actually really good. So, um, but yeah,
Cool.
I never that was never my cup of tea, that movie. But then I'm also not someone that likes the explosion every minute kind of thing too. I like a little bit
Sure.
more, moves to drag a little more. I don't know. Um, okay, 1958. So this is where I started to give it to. I was trying to think where to give Hitchcock his Oscar,
Mm-hmm.
and Vertigo was kind of the other one I was looking at, and then I started comparing like was it 53, 54, 54 with Rear Window, and 58, and I realized 58. The movie that won, I don't think is Gigi, and I
Okay.
think we can all agree that Vertigo is better than Gigi. But another movie came out in 58 that I really think deserves an Oscar. And I guess maybe I don't know if I think it's better than Vertigo exactly, but I feel like giving Rear Window the 54 Oscar opened up the chance for me to give Touch of Evil the Oscar in
Oh,
Oh
58.
yeah.
And I just love that movie. I think, you know, there's so many cool camera shots, and the performances are iconic, and you've
Mm-hmm.
got is it Marlene Dietrich? I think she's older and
Mm-hmm.
she's and Orson Welles looks so impossible. And he actually films himself from like under the gut to make it look even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
That whole sequence at the beginning with the car driving and the music and then the bomb. Uh, Charlton Heston playing the Mexican guy, like it just everything about it
Mm-hmm.
is so iconic. Um, and there's also something I really like about that movie. Like it never gets mentioned. Like in the movie, they allude to it, but they never come out and say it. But like if like maybe you guys have both seen this, I'm sure at least once or twice. Um, so Orson Welles, like it's clear he's been framing criminals. Like at least
Mm-hmm.
that's like they make it clear that like he always finds the piece of evidence that like person, the guy that did it, like he always figures it out. But everything he finds would fit into his cane. Like, you found the stick of dynamite, you found the rolled up scroll, everything he finds. Like, clearly they never show up. But I was waiting for him to like unscrew the top and dump out like I like that they just they imply that that's how he's been doing it. It's always like a small cylindrical object that incriminates the villain. And the death scene, like it's one of my favorite movies ever to watch. I saw it, like I didn't know anything about it. I was in college, like a local theater was showing Touch of Evil, and I saw Charlton Heston. I know him. He was Moses, or like whatever. And I walked in. I just walked out like, wow, that was something. So even though I'm sure a person can make a strong case that Vertigo is even better, just like the other, like with well, anyhow, yeah, I it's getting the Oscar. Hitchcock gets it for Rear Window, and Touch of Evil gets the Oscar in '58. We can give Hitchcock a Best Director for Vertigo, give him a second Oscar if we want, but yeah, Touch of Evil that deserves an Oscar. So,
you really giving it to what do you think? Giving it to the noirs this episode.
We really are.
Yeah, no, Double Indemnity got one. Yeah, we definitely are. That is. I guess that was an overlooked genre. Noirs didn't get Oscars.
I think so. Yeah. So. Cool. So my next one is.
Any thoughts on Touch of Evil or?
I really like Touch of Evil. I'm not sure if I personally would change it from Vertigo because I don't know. You would have to.
Vertigo didn't get it. I'm changing it from Gigi.
Oh, from Gigi.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Part of what I like Touch of Evil too, and this might sound like a knock, but it's not really, is I feel like it's kind of sloppily edited and put together. And knowing now more of Orson Welles' trajectory, it comes across as more intentional. And I think it is intentional, kind of the tricks he's doing, and the idea that this character is morally corrupt and drunk and stuff. But I just find that kind of interesting. Like it is probably the most sloppily made movie from like a great director who knows what he's doing.
I can see that. I've never thought of that, but I did. Maybe I touched on it because I used to think like he must have just cut the scene out where he explains the cane. Maybe he meant to shoot it but never did, or maybe he forgot to include it. But yeah, like sloppy is a kind of. I can see there is a certain amount of hastiness in that production. So yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, but yeah, let's jump ahead.
My next one is the 71st Academy Awards. The best original screenplay, I would have given it to The Big Lebowski.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It was not nominated. The winner was Shakespeare in Love.
Sure.
I feel like that one swept the Oscars that year, and nobody ever talks about that movie. Bunch of other great movies like The Truman Show, Saving Private Ryan, beautiful. Those would have been good to win too, but I chose The Big Lebowski just because of its sort of sustaining cultural impact, and like every line is so quotable. And I know we've talked about that film on this podcast before because it's one of my favorites, but I mean, I just think it's so well written, and kind of how they took the sort of noir style, this, I guess, Raymond Chandler, right? His style of, and kind of turned it into this funny 90s like stoner noir. It's just genius, and every time I rewatch it just gets better and better, and I'm laughing out loud every line. So
yeah, no, that's definitely, yeah, I can see, I agree with that one. That is absolutely, that deserved an Oscar. That was one of their best movies. And yeah, it's really clever. And it's The Big Sleep. It took me about the third time watching it to realize, I was like, wait a minute, this is just Chandler's The Big Sleep.
Yeah.
But instead of like a hard-boiled detective, it's like a stoner. But everything, like, the pornographer, and like it's all the elements just kind of, he's constantly getting knocked out. Like yeah, it was. Yeah, it is The Big Sleep, just remixed through it's even an LA movie, just like The Big Sleep. It takes place in LA. Just that one
Totally.
subtle change. You go from no nonsense hard boiled detective to the dude, and it completely changes everything.
Yeah. And I know so the Cohen brothers, they're pretty faithful to the script. Like they, someone might think, oh, they probably improvised or whatever, but I've
Hmm.
heard that they're very faithful down to the wording and stuff. And I haven't read this script in particular, but I've read some of their other scripts, and I just love how the scripts read. When you're reading it, you can
Hmm.
just it flows well, just like in the movie. So yeah, that's just another reason I would give it to him.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think that's a good choice.
Hmm.
Um, so where am I? So I'm in the '60s now. I'm in 1964, and I was
Yeah.
thinking of best picture, best director, but I'm going to go with best actor. And Rex Harrison
Okay.
got it for My Fair Lady, which was it's a great performance. He's a great Henry Higgins, but I think Peter Sellers in Doctor Strangelove did more acting. He was the uh, the president. He was Doctor Strangelove. He was the
Hmm.
was it, was it Captain Mandrake? Like he's all over the place, and he's excellent. And like Peter Sellers was the best actor that year. I think I don't think anybody would question that. I think as good
No.
as My Fair Lady was, and again, My Fair Lady is a very Hollywood
Hmm.
Oscar performance. Like what Rex Harrison is doing, he may as well be. I'm Professor Henry Higgins, and I deserve an Oscar for. Like he's just
Yeah.
like that is what the Oscars look for. But yeah, Peter Sellers, Doctor Strangelove, best actor. I think that's not too controversial. I don't, any disagreement? Any opinions here? Is that
No.
a?
I
No,
mean,
yeah.
I
it's
think
undeniable, I think.
yeah, and I think honestly, if you wanted to give, I think George Cukor got the best. I think you could give Kubrick the best director. I think you can give Doctor Strangelove the best picture, but I'm going to leave it just with the best actor that year because I think that was the biggest travesty of the three. I
Hmm.
think Doctor Strangelove didn't get the love it deserved at the Oscars.
I mean, he's able to play this like kooky character, but then also in the other characters more of a straight performance that's still
Mhm.
funny. So it's
Yeah,
just
like he's
yeah.
so like he was always good at these weirdo like
Mhm.
like we think him in the Pink Panther, I guess, but like you ever see The Party? Which
No.
I don't know
No.
if it's even politically. I don't know if they could even do that now. But like he plays like the kind of hapless Indian actor, and he's got this Indian accent. And like if you can look past that, he's just like he just falls into that role. He becomes that character. Like he's like Gary Oldman or something. Like you know it's Peter Sellers, but you don't think it's Peter
Yeah.
Sellers while you're watching it. Like um he's done so many. What's the one where he's in jail, but he's like getting all the stuff delivered to him and I don't know. Like his entire career was just, this was like the pinnacle of that. But he was that kind of actor, and I think he doesn't get the credit for it. Maybe because he didn't have like a certain type of role, or because
Hmm.
people love. Oh, he's Clouseau. He's a pratfalling goofball, but he was an actor. So
Yeah.
Definitely.
okay, well let's keep
All
going.
right, let's go.
All right. Next one is more modern. Uh,
Mhm.
84 Academy Awards, Best Cinematography. I will give it to Emmanuel Lubezki, El Chivo, or The Tree of Life.
Mm,
He
Mm.
okay.
was nominated. Um, the winner was Robert Richardson for Hugo. Um,
Okay.
Okay, but what
I
year you said
like Robert.
84? This is
Oh no, this
2004.
is
What?
2011.
2011. Okay, I thought you said 84. I was like, wait a minute, the Tree of
It's the
Life.
The
84th
84th.
awards.
Oh, 84th Awards. Okay. I was like,
Yeah.
was there an older Tree of Life? Well, as soon as you said Hugo, I'm like, no, it's got to be.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
84.
I like Robert Richardson. I could never get through Hugo. I don't know. There's a lot going on in Hugo, and it just I don't know. But for me, The Tree of Life is just I've only saw the movie that one time. I have the Blu-ray, but it's just kind of long. But that movie has just stayed with
Sure.
me, and like the images from that movie, and the lighting, the natural lighting, and it's so beautiful. And the idea that they build these sets in these houses in order to capture like the light in a certain
Hmm.
way, and then they would cut like new windows into the house in order to get the light just right to utilize the natural light. And um, I think El Chivo Lubeski ended up winning 3 years in a row. I think he should have won four. 'Cause this
He
movie's so
needed the
good.
4 beat.
Yeah.
Huh.
Nice.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's more of a what was the category? It was the
Best
Cinematography.
cinematography.
Yeah. I didn't even dig that. I was looking at pictures and actors, but yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure there's
for
a
me, I
whole yeah,
enjoy cinematography. I do
absolutely.
cinematography, so that's
Yeah.
just I wanted to include one, and I feel like for me that was probably the biggest upset,
Yeah.
or
No,
the
I'm glad you
biggest
did. I think we
snub.
probably should have done more, yeah.
Cool.
For the most
Um,
part, it's easy to give a good cinematography category and be like, well, yeah, I mean that was good. But for me, this is the one that I was like,
yeah, no, I
Hugo,
can see
I don't know.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, so I'm still back in the I was in the 60s. I've jumped all the way to the 90s now. And I
All
think
right.
in fact my last two I think are kind of almost like the like the citizens. These are such obvious ones. I almost felt like I should not do these. I should probably dig deeper, but I wanted to include. So 1990, I think Martin Scorsese and Goodfellas
Yeah.
deserve best director, best picture over Dances with Wolves and Kevin Costner. And it's almost like not controversial, where I feel like I should have done. Like, there were all these other ones that on my list where I was like, this one seems like such a travesty, and so does my next one. I think it's just like this. My 10th one is like it's almost too obvious, but yeah, I just feel like Goodfellas is just an incredible movie. It's like it's my favorite. It's of all Scorsese's had such a long career, but it's my favorite Scorsese movie to
Hmm.
watch, and I think it's one of his two or three best ones he made. Um, and Dances with the Wolves, I went to the theater, I saw it, I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel like I walked away as impressed by it as I did Goodfellas. So,
Hmm.
I'm sorry for Kevin Costner. I know he's something like what 35 years now he's had those Oscars, but he's going to have to turn them over to Marty. So, not sure what else to say. Like it's
Time.
what I mean, yeah, it's we've all seen Goodfellas. We've all seen. You guys have
Mhm.
both seen Dances with Wolves or no?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
like,
you know.
but yeah, like there was. I don't know. Like I even when I was making this up, I was like, should I just make that like Citizen Kane, where it's just one of those honorable mentions? But yeah, that's my pick. So
Okay.
obvious or not, I felt like it had to be said. So
It
yeah,
must be said.
it must be said. So 1990. Now what do you got?
All right.
What do you
So
got?
for my final alternate Oscar, I am giving it to for Best Actor. I am giving it to Adam Sandler for Uncut Gems in
Wow.
For real.
2019. Yes,
Who got it that year?
the winner was Joaquin Phoenix for Joker.
No.
Um, I think that's a fine performance. I think it's good. It carries the movie. I don't think it is should have won Best Actor. Um, I feel that okay. So here's my thing about Adam Sandler, right? Like, kind of maybe what you were saying about Peter Sellers, like just this guy
Hmm.
traditionally just like silly goofball movies. I love Billy Madison.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of his movies are really stupid, and
Yes.
I think people just have not taken him seriously. Um, Spanglish was probably the first movie that he was like in that was like, okay, this is not a silly performance, and he's kind of a side character in that. I mean, he's not in the forefront, and he's not doing anything uh, that interesting in Spanglish. But that was like one of his more serious performances. And
Hmm.
then PTA's Punch Drunk Love, I think, also
Hmm.
underrated performance. Um, he's very much still like you still see Adam Sandler throughout most of his career. But then when I saw Uncut Gems, I was just not prepared for Adam Sandler to deliver like a performance like that, like where he just completely disappeared into this role of that character. And I
Totally.
think, this year Marty Supreme is getting a lot of nominations, and I think maybe if they had switched places, like if Murray Supreme had come out before Uncut Gems, maybe Uncut Gems would be
Hmm.
getting more kind of needed to sort of break the mold. I think at the time maybe it was just too much of a oddity and it's too strange. And
Hmm.
Adam Sandler has all these baggage. He's not maybe not considered a serious actor. And I never in a million years would have thought I would have said this about Adam Sandler. But yeah, I just feel like that performance is great.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah.
I liked that movie and I liked his performance. Um, and I've never like I didn't even his like I've never found his movies funny. Like where the
Sure.
Water Boy, the Billy Madison,
Mm.
the What About the Golf? Like no, like I just sit stone faced through those things. Like I've never enjoyed his movies. Um, and that and I that was the best thing I think he ever did. Like Uncut Gems, that made my list of the 100 best of the 21st century.
Hmm.
Um, and I can see it, although in a way it also kind of like it was still it felt like Adam Sandler just taking the mask off. That I felt like he was just being everyday Adam Sandler. I didn't
Hmm.
see it as much of an acting performance as like him not acting for once because he's always so like "Hurr," and like
Right.
um but then like Joaquin Phoenix I thought was like that was his Joker acting was I don't know. Like I can't say this is I disagree, but I think I liked Joaquin Phoenix what he did as Joker more than I think. But I don't know. Maybe Adam Sandler really was. Like I'm just guessing that he was, you know, not giving it all or whatever it is.
Hmm.
But you're right. I think a lot of it probably is just the baggage that he carries from being kind of like like a goofy guy who makes a lot of lousy movies. So
Hmm.
I can't argue with. I think that you know whatever he was doing, his performance, like he certainly kept it up, and it was he made it gripping and he made it believable. So yeah, like I don't think I would have ever considered that as an option, but I can't argue with that.
I mean, it was a tough
I
year.
like
There's a lot of good people. There's
yeah.
Leonardo
What else?
DiCaprio, Adam Driver, Jonathan Price, Antonio
Which DiCaprio movie
Banderas.
was that?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Sure.
Oh, okay, that might have been better than
But
either of those then. Yeah.
I think he had, I do really like that performance. But I think
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio had just come off of The Revenant, so I don't think they were going to give it to him.
Yeah.
No.
He doesn't get a two-peat. The other guy gets the four-peat, but he doesn't get the two. Yeah. Yeah. No, I can see it. I think that's especially in the spirit of what we're doing. I think it makes perfect sense because it's
Yeah.
something that might be a little controversial, but I think you
Hmm.
make a good case for it. Um.
All right.
So, well, I guess I should jump. So
Your last
so
one.
my next one I'm going to do two because now the more I'm thinking about Goodfellas and kind of because the next one is another one just like that. So I'm going to
Hmm.
say what my 10th one is, and then what the other one that I think the one that I almost so I um the Searchers. I guess getting I already had the one that replaced Peter O'Toole. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna replace my own. So it was Pulp Fiction. I think was better than Forrest Gump. I don't like Forrest Gump at all. I think Forrest Gump is a very mediocre film, kind of masquerading as a good film.
Hmm.
So I had Pulp Fiction Best Picture, Tarantino Best Director in '94. But again, I don't know that that's that controversial because it's kind of like Citizen Kane, where it's like Pulp Fiction and Citizen Kane both just radically shifted cinema.
Hmm.
So I'm going to keep it in there, but switch it to honorable mention because the one that I really wanted to include that I just couldn't find room for was back in 19 oh, what year is it? It was 60. Um, which is it's the year that they gave Best Actor to Charlton Heston for Ben-Hur, playing Ben-Hur. Um, but I want to give it to Jack Lemmon for Some Like It Hot. And kind of part of the
Yes.
reason I, didn't do it is that, Jack Lemmon has gotten a badass best, kind of a very controversial Best Actor at the what year he won it. But also it's another Billy Wilder film, and I feel like I was, I'd already had him on my list, and as it turns out, you did too. So, um, but yeah, I'm gonna move Pulp Fiction over with Citizen Kane. It's just like we all know it deserved it. It got
Hmm.
robbed, and let's give Jack Lemmon. I think what he does in Some Like It Hot is more impressive to me than Charlton Heston has been. Maybe because I always see almost like Charlton Heston. He always does that kind of epic
Sure.
biblical
Yeah.
role. So Jack Lemmon, he wasn't there during the course of this conversation. He slipped back in there. Which is a very Jack Lemmon thing to do.
Yeah.
Jack Lemmon he made a career as kind of the underestimated nice guy. So yeah,
I love him.
he fooled even me. It makes sense that he'd be the one that did that. So Jack Lemmon, 1960, is now the best actor. Charlton Heston, sorry, dude, you probably got some other ones, but yeah, not that year.
It was
Yeah.
a very progressive performance. I feel like nowadays they would give it to him, you know?
Yeah, it would not be. Yeah, we've caught up with that, but yeah, at the time it was they had to kind of make it more like a gag than I think they would now.
Sure.
But
Cool.
yeah,
All right. Well, that
So-
concludes our ceremony for the alternate
That's it.
Oscars and the different frames. Congrats to all the winners.
yeah. Our apologies to the people who had their
Bending up.
Yeah.
victory snatched
Bending
away
up and
decades
fat
later.
fears.
But yeah, throwing it to the audience, you know, what do you guys think? What are some snubs throughout the years that you guys think deserve an award? Or do you agree with our awards? Do you disagree? Do you hate some of our choices? We want to hear more from you guys, so let us know.
Does anybody agree with me that Terminator 2 is kind of a slog, or am I?
Yeah, I
really
want to
being-
know about this.
Yeah. That's the
I'll
very
try to watch it
controversial.
again.
That's
I don't
probably the
own
most
that, but I'll-
controversial one.
I'll find a copy of it and watch it, and maybe I'll like it better this time. But yeah, let us know. I'd love to hear. There's got to be at least one or two kind of obvious omissions that we made, or maybe something we said that people think is, how dare you say Vertigo's better than Gigi? So let's hear it.
Yeah, all those VG heads coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah.